and thanks again for joining us for Hot Off the List. I'm Mr. Jonathan, and I'm here today with Miss Michelle. And today we have a special guest. Karen Kane is a sign language interpreter, library enthusiast, and the author of the Charlie and Frog series. In this first installment, we meet Charlie, a hearing boy who moves to the castle on the Hudson town, and Frog, a deaf girl who has aspirations of becoming a detective. Together, Charlie and Frog set out to decipher a series of clues and uncover the truth behind a missing woman's message. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. I feel honored that you asked me.
Well, my first question is, where did you get the inspiration for this first book?
Oh my gosh. I got the inspiration from deaf kids. I am a sign language interpreter, and a sign language interpreter is someone who does sign language for people who don't know it. So if you have a person who's deaf, that means you can't hear, and you sign, you speak with your hands, and say you wanted to talk to that person. Well, how would you do that? You could write back and forth and you could learn a little sign, but then if you really wanted to talk and you had to have a conversation right then, I would interpret what you say to that person, and that person, whatever they sign, I would speak to you. So I work with lots and lots of deaf people, and I met so many awesome deaf kids that use sign language and can't hear and use their eyes to hear. That was my inspiration for Frog. And then Charlie was a little bit like me. I had a little bit of Charlie in me, but that really is where the story came from, all the awesome deaf kids that I've worked with over the years.
That's awesome. How did you come to learn sign language?
I learned sign language when I went to college. I didn't learn it when I was really little. A lot of interpreters do. A lot of interpreters learn because their parents are deaf. And of course, their first language is American Sign Language. But I learned it when I went to college. I went to the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. I know that's a lot of words. It's called NTID. And that's in Rochester, New York. And it's a deaf school there. So students who go there are deaf. But they also have an interpreting program. So I learned sign language, and then I learned how to interpret at NTID in Rochester, New York, when I was in college.
Michelle,
So
did you want to ask one?
I am, yes, thank you. If kids want to learn sign language, where should they start?
Well, one, if you are lucky enough to be a kid who goes to school with other deaf and hard of hearing kids, definitely go ahead and introduce yourself, learn a little sign language, and maybe you can start communicating with that person. But you can also learn online, and you can also learn from other deaf people who are teaching sign language. There's lots of resources, but you can definitely ask your grown-up, see if you can go online and find a class. For Charlie and Frog, for this book, the person who drew all the pictures in here is named Carlisle Robinson, and Carlisle Robinson is deaf. So there's sign language in this book, and Carlisle drew all the pictures. But then this is what Carlisle did that's really great as well. Carlisle showed how to sign these and made a video on YouTube. So ask your grown-up if you can go to YouTube and look up Charlie and Frog, and you can see how to sign all the signs that Charlie learns in Charlie and Frog. And that's like a really good beginning. And then there's lots of different websites that if you ask your grown-up for help, they'll help you find that. And you can start learning some sign language and maybe talk with some deaf friends that go to your school.
I also saw that on YouTube. Michelle and I saw that there's also a video where they translate the first chapter into ASL.
Not Jonathan, Mr. Jonathan, not just the first chapter, but the whole book. This was so exciting. So Charlie and Frog, of course, is written in English, but I also wanted it to have it in American Sign Language. And I was really lucky that I had a deaf educator named Bobby Jo Kite Hairbald offer to interpret it all into sign language. So she's deaf. She grew up and went to a deaf school. And so she did. So if you go to Charlie and Frog on YouTube, you can see chapters 1 through, I think it's 39 chapters in Charlie and Frog. Every one of them, the story is told in American Sign Language. And what's really neat is I'm hearing from teachers of deaf children, that they're using that in their curriculum. So the kids are watching chapter 1 in ASL and sign language, and then they're reading it in English so they can have a bilingual approach to the book Charlie and Frog.
That's amazing.
I really love that. I
I'm so excited.
wait to share that with our teachers. Like, I think that's going to be really, really cool this year.
Oh, that's awesome. And there's captioning too for signing impaired people, we call it. We always tease, meaning you can't sign. So you can see what what Bobby Jo is actually signing from the book. And then of course, if you've read Charlie and Frog, you know the story. So you can kind of catch a lot of the signs.
I love that.
So,
I have one more question about ASL, and then I want to pivot a little more to talk about the book. But some folks feel that sign language is no longer necessary, that now with hearing aids and cochlear devices, that ASL is not something that needs to be taught. What are your thoughts on that?
well, as a hearing person and a person who's not deaf, I just want to quantify that or qualify that. This is my opinion as somebody who doesn't have a deaf child, is not deaf. But my opinion is definitely sign language is so valuable and so important for many reasons. So say you get a child is born deaf but doesn't get a cochlear implant till a little bit older. Well, that child doesn't have access to language until only with her or his eyes. So sign language is key for that. Also, if you do get a cochlear implant or you do get hearing aids, when you take that off, you are still a deaf person. So when you go swimming, or if you just don't want to have that on right then, you're still deaf. So sign language is always there, always available for you to use with your eyes. And then I would say there's not a single downside to learning American Sign Language and being a bilingual child if you're deaf of hard of hearing, not one. Because research shows that those two languages, the other language of American Sign Language only supports English, and the learning of English only supports sign language. Just like if you were learning Spanish and English, or you were learning French and English, there's no negative or downside. There's only positives to having those two languages that you can use. And that way a child also who has a cochlear implant sometimes might want to take that out and not be wearing equipment on his or her head and can sign and and communicate. And also sign language uses space. For example, if you set up a person and the person's walking, we use space in sign language. Just say you started here and you moved to here. If you had a house here and you had a store here, you could say the person walked. We use space. And in sign language, you use facial expressions as well. So your eyebrows mean things, your mouth means things. It's really a full physical expression. And somebody who's deaf or hard of hearing and has a cochlear implant or hearing aids can fully participate in American Sign Language, regardless of their hearing level and regardless if they have the equipment on. So you can see I'm so strong an advocate to say American Sign Language is the most beautiful language and wonderful to learn for anybody, and especially for deaf and hard of hearing children.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved the part in the book where Frog's mom was yelling and her face was very animated and you could tell that she was yelling.
Yeah, and in sign language.
Yes, exactly. I think about my own kids, they know by my facial expression what I'm thinking. So I loved how you wrote about that. I thought that was really cool.
It's really interesting. I mean, as a hearing person, I wrote the book from Charlie's point of view, who is also hearing and doesn't know sign. But for my book, I made sure for both books, actually, I had readers who were deaf who read my story, and just to make sure that I didn't miss anything or misrepresent something, especially for the Bony Hand, the second book in Charlie and Frog. I had many deaf readers, but I had two deaf librarians from the Texas School for the Deaf read it. And that was really wonderful to have them be one of my first readers as well. And every reader, hearing and deaf, always is so valuable, but I really wanted those deaf readers to show me things or help me catch things that I might not have seen or noticed and included as a hearing writer. So I was really grateful for that.
That's awesome.
So this book is on the Sunshine State list this year.
Yay!
And which congratulations, that's very exciting.
Thank you.
And so before Jonathan asks the questions, about the book, and as we talk about how wonderful Charlie and Frog is, I want to know your reaction or how you find out that something's been added to a book list.
That's a really good question. I found out that it was a Louisiana State nominee just by chance. I was Googling something about Charlie and Frog and it came up. So I didn't know that. But the Sunshine State list, my editor at Little Brown for Young Readers actually emailed me and said, hey, congratulations, I want to tell you. So I don't know if I always will know that way. Sometimes I think there's other lists and other awards that sometimes we don't always catch. But for the Sunshine State Award, it was definitely my Little Brown editor. And that was a wonderful email to get because sometimes when you write a book and publish it, you send it out in the world, you don't know how it's going to be received. And so what do? I go back to writing. So I'm busy working on my other books because that's the only thing I can control. I can't control how many people will read it or if people will love it. So it was really, really gratifying to find that librarians had felt this was worthy of the list. I felt really honored.
I wanted to ask because Frog loves this girl detective series, and that really felt authentic. And I'm wondering, as a kid, were you a fan of mystery stories as well?
You know what? That is like the first time someone's ever asked me that question. That is a great question. Yes, I love mysteries. Those are my favorite books as a kid. When I was a little girl, I loved a series called The Happy Hollisters. They're old. They're from the 1950s. But when I found them at a yard sale and I just loved them. It was about these 5 happy kids that solved mysteries. And that just was so attractive to me. Of course, they had very few problems. They had wonderful, perfect parents. You know, they always solved mysteries. They always loved each other. It was very idealized, but I loved that. But one of my favorite book series was also Encyclopedia Brown. I love those mysteries, right? And I just love mysteries in general. I love kid mysteries and I love adult mysteries. So absolutely, I love mysteries. And I thought it would be really fun. Trixie Belden was another one. So if you like Nancy Drew, Trixie Belden is sort of like Nancy Drew in the Hardy Boys, you know, when I was a kid. But loved them. And yeah, it just fed its way into the story because of my own passion and love for mystery books.
I feel like that definitely came through. Can I ask, what are you reading now?
I am always reading stuff. So I should have been ready for that question because usually I am because I read so much. For grown-up books, I love the J.K. Rowling, Robert Galbraith mystery series. They're definitely grown-up books, but I'm a passionate like fan of those books. But for books themselves, right now, oh my gosh, you have to give me a second. I should have been prepared for this because I read so many books. I'm always having a book that I'm reading and then I forget.
Me too. I always
Oh
have a
my gosh.
nightstand full of them, and then it's hard for me to remember what I'm actually reading right
All
now.
right, ask me another question and
You
it'll come
got it.
back to me because I read so much. I definitely want to give a shout out to whatever I've read now. But I'm a passionate reader. I did just read a book because one of my writing partners, I write some books with other people. They're not yet published. One of them are sold, but I was one of her readers for a book called The Book That Nobody Wants to Read. It's part of her book series for kids who are reluctant readers. And her first book is called I Hate Reading. And it's a wonderful 20-minute book to read when the teacher says, drop and read, read a book for 20 minutes. And so that was a book actually I read because she just published it. And so I was one of her readers. And it's a book that just makes you laugh. And the book Nobody Wants to Read is a book about a book that nobody reads, and he's trying to convince the reader to read them. So I love humor. Books that make me laugh are wonderful.
Absolutely. What can we expect from the sequel, The Bony Hand?
So The Bony Hand takes place in the fall. Charlie and Frog happens in the summer, as you can see the green, but The Bony Hand happens in the fall. And The Bony Hand is a story that I took some real research that I found about pirates. I thought pirates only sailed on the ocean, but pirates were also on rivers. And the Hudson River, where Charlie and Frog is set, there used to be pirates. So I thought that would be an awesome beginning for a story. So I made up a story, my own story that happened hundreds of years ago to a man named Jeremiah Bone, and his name is Boney Jack. And it's a story about the hand of Boney Jack, which sounds a little scary. And if you like a little bit of scary, it has a little bit of that. And when the bony hand goes missing, of course, Charlie and Frog are on the case and have to solve it. So that was really fun to write that book. And I learned so much about mystery writing Charlie and Frog, that I used everything I learned and put it into the bony hand. So it was really gratifying to be able to write a second mystery book in the series.
Sounds exciting. Michelle, did you have any more questions?
I am just so excited that you joined us today. And we can't wait to share this book with our students. In fact, I think we're going to give a prize if our students out there read this book and write a book review or publish a book review with a video. I think that we're going to give the prize of giving out the bony hand. We're gonna find some random winners and they get to read the second one as well. Because I just think that they will be so excited about reading this book.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome. So if you do a book review, we're going to pick some random winners who will get the sequel. So you'll get the second part of the Charlie and Frog series. That's fun.
Exactly right.
Well, if you had time, Karen, we're going to play a little game with you.
Oh, I love games.
So Charlie and Frog are quite the dynamic duo. So in their honor, I wanted to quiz both of your knowledge of dynamic duos with some questions in the form of limericks. So neither you nor Michelle have heard these limericks before. And so I'll direct the question towards one of you at a time. Michelle thinks I'm crazy. She should have known this when she hired me.
And really, I didn't know this. And
So I'll direct the questions to
here we
each
are.
of you one at a time. And if you flub it, if you don't know the answer, then the other person will have a chance to steal. Okay? All right.
All right.
Karen, are you ready?
I'm ready. And this is the sign for ready, Michelle. So take your hands
Ooh.
and cross your fingers.
So the R.
Yeah, make an R and then shake
Okay.
them.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
I'm ready.
Here we go. We'll start with Karen. Whose bestie is pink and sleeps under a rock? Go jellyfishing with them and you're in for a shock. He lives in a pineapple and is truly bizarre. Hey, look, it's SpongeBob and his friend.
Hagar.
Oh, Michelle, do you think you can steal?
My kids are going to be so mad at me. And his friend. Okay, wait. Let me think.
I should do the Jeopardy song, right?
Honestly, I can only think of his friend Patrick, and I know that's not it. It is
Patrick Star. Patrick
Patrick
Star.
Okay,
There you go.
Michelle, you got it.
All right, 1 point for Michelle.
Give
Michelle,
me more. Come on.
this is your question. Bang, bang, grab the money, then run to the car. With cops on our tails, we'll never get far. Throughout the Depression, we robbed banks far and wide. You'll remember our names. We're...
Bonnie and Clyde.
Excellent.
Yay!
All right. All right, Karen, this one is for you. Are you crazy in love or a child of destiny? Have an empire state of mind or just love blue ivy? Bow down when you hear the buzz of the queen bee. It's Beyonce and her husband, the rapper.
Jay-Z.
Yes, excellent.
Oh my gosh. The pressure.
I know.
Did you write these?
I did.
Oh my gosh.
You had no idea how creative
I
Jonathan is.
am such a lucky girl.
All right, this is your question. Let's see how lucky you are. Here we go. They drive around in a van to spooky old places and unmask evil tricksters to see their true faces. You'd best order pizza if you want to please these two. It's Shaggy Rogers and his best friend, Doggy.
Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo. Excellent. All right.
I
Karen.
love your dynamic duos, Jonathan.
Oh, thank you. All right, Karen, here's your last question.
Okay.
Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? Oscar is grouchy, but he's okay with me. Visiting these roommates will make it worth the journey. Bring your rubber ducky. We're visiting
Bert and Ernie.
Bert and
Or just
Ernie.
I love it.
Excellent.
I'm a little slow on the take. Thank you, Michelle, for mentioning dynamic duos, Charlie and Frog. I am. I'm one of these people that like, oh.
Well, you've done quite well so far. So
I love it.
all right, Michelle, last one for the
Come on,
win. You
Michelle.
ready?
Okay.
Okay. Clog pipes, call a plumber. Perhaps you ought to call two. Rescuing Princess Peach, vacuuming ghosts that say boo. This duo stays busy with plenty of cardio. Just send for Luigi and his brother,
Mario.
Mario.
Woo!
Excellent.
I would not have gotten that until the end. Like I was like, Princess Peach. That was hard.
I tried to gear these towards kids, so hopefully they got them too. But
I hope so.
I think so. Well, thank you so much, Karen. And to all the kids out there for Osceola County, if you haven't already read Charlie and Frog, pick it up at your media center. If you love mysteries, if you have a disability and you would like to see yourself reflected in literature, or if you are interested in learning sign language, there are some pages in here that will teach you some signs. Also in the back, there's the alphabet, so you can learn some finger spelling techniques. And please remember to check out Karen's next book if you love this one, The Bony Hand. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this. I so appreciate